Hey guys, Rodney Walker here, Grand Central USA, and we've been looking at the topic of, so you want to start a nonprofit, and we've been covering this in detail, and we've been looking at a number of things. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the earlier videos on this, go back and check those out because I believe you will find some great value in them, and it will help you to get greater clarity on if you should really be doing a nonprofit. And as I've said in some of the earlier videos, I'm not convinced that everybody who wants to start a nonprofit should be doing one. In fact, I'm convinced that most of them probably shouldn't, because some of them don't even know what a nonprofit is. And if you did get a chance to check out the video training that I did on that, where I talked about what is a nonprofit, you may want to go back and check that out. But for now, I want to share with you, if you're convinced that you should be doing this thing called a nonprofit, and if you understand, hey, this is what a nonprofit is, I want to share with you the steps that are required to go about actually establishing and developing a nonprofit. There's a process, and I want you to understand and to have clarity on what that is. So let's just pause for a second and let's take a look at this thing. So what's required to actually develop a nonprofit? Okay, so here's the first thing. Remember I told you about those 5 W's. You've got to address those questions on those 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why, when, all of that. We got to address those, okay? Where. We also kind of have to know that H. We talked about how, okay? But in addition to that, we've got to get that mission. And once we get a mission, we also have to have a board of directors, meaning that these are the people that are going to help to govern this nonprofit organization. Just in case you were thinking that, hey, if I start a nonprofit, I can be the boss and I can run the show. Well, hold your horses. Oh, whoa, hold tonto, okay? Here's the real deal. When you have a nonprofit, it has a board of directors, and the board of directors collectively help to determine what happens with the nonprofit organization, because the board of directors are the ones that are governing that organization. And what they will do is they will be the ones that will hire an executive director when there's funds to do that, okay? But if you were thinking, hey, I'm trying to start a nonprofit organization so I can run the show, whoa, okay? Because really, it's the collective body of the board of directors that are governing the direction, and they're the one who literally hires and fires the executive director. So you've got to have that in place. And when you file those papers, you're filing those papers with the government, and you're telling the government, hey, here's what we're about, here's what we're going to do, and then you give it to them, and what the government does is they hold you accountable to what you said. Okay? Are you hearing and seeing how this whole thing works? So literally, I guess what I'm saying to you is this. I'm saying your nonprofit organization, even though it's your nonprofit organization, it really isn't your nonprofit organization. It really belongs. Do you know who it belongs to? It belongs to we the people. Okay, but enough with that. That's another training. Okay, let me get back to the point at hand. So how do you structure this? You get a board of directors. After you get a board of directors, you also file what's called articles of incorporation. Okay, so you have to give your articles of incorporation to the Secretary of State. And these are articles where you're filing and saying, okay, hey, here's what we're about. You file that with the Secretary of State for whatever state you choose to file in. Remember I told you earlier about the question that we answered, the who, what, when, where. The where is important because you can file in different states. You can choose which state you choose to file in. So if you're in Texas, you can file in Texas, or you don't have to be obligated to simply file there. You can file in another state, but you got to look through and see the advantages and disadvantages of doing that and have it make sense for you there as well. Okay, so then you have your articles of incorporation. You also have your bylaws that are required when you complete what's called the 1023 application. If you don't know what that is, go Google that. That's the application that you actually have to submit to the government, and it's really an application where they're asking you questions to make sure that you really are going to be operating as a nonprofit organization. So this application has a number of really, what I would call somewhat fact-checking questions to make sure that you really are a nonprofit organization, and that you will be operating as an official nonprofit organization. If you're not going to be operating as an official nonprofit organization, it's going to kind of come to light when you start filling out that paperwork, okay? So you may be filling that paperwork out and thinking that, hey, as I fill this paperwork out, that, you know, I'm filing it, but they will point out to you things that may be more profit in nature. So they want to make sure, they want to really make sure that you really are a nonprofit organization. Because what happens if you're a nonprofit organization, there are certain taxes that they're not going to get. There's certain monies that they're not going to get. And the government is okay with that, but they want to just make sure that there's going to be real charitable good that's going to be going back into the community since we're not getting these taxes. And that's why in that 1023 application, they want to make sure that you really are who you say you are, okay? So think about it this way. Think about it from the standpoint that you have to fill out the articles. The bylaws are submitted with your 1023 application along with your articles of incorporation from your state. That's sent to the government. Then what happens is they will review it and they will make a determination if you indeed are a nonprofit organization, okay? Now, here's the thing that's important to note. They give you this determination letter, and that determination letter allows anybody who gives monies to your organization to receive a tax break, okay? They receive a tax benefit from giving to you because now you are recognized as an official charitable nonprofit organization. And if you receive that declaration, then they hold you to that standard. It's going to be really important for you to make sure that your organization lives up to that, okay? Now, what's something else worth noting, Rodney? Here's something else that's really important that's worth noting. There are nonprofit organizations that exist that are nonprofit in nature, but they have not received a 501c3 determination, which states that, hey, the government has verified that you are legally operating as an officially recognized nonprofit organization, meaning that you have a board, that you have bylaws, that you have bylaws that you say, hey, we're going to operate according to these laws, and that you file with the Secretary of State. So there are some nonprofits that have chosen not to do that, okay? Are they still a nonprofit organization? Well, yes, they are. Because remember in the earlier video I shared with you about what is a nonprofit organization, and one of the definitions that I shared with you in that video was that a nonprofit organization, if you haven't seen it, go back and check that out. It exists to fulfill its mission. So there are organizations that do exist and they have a mission. For instance, I can say today, hey, I'm going to start a nonprofit today that's going to be a Save the Frogs of, I live in Pasadena, so Save the Frogs of Pasadena. Well, the reason this organization exists is to fulfill that mission. But some organizations say, hey, I don't want to go through all the paperwork and file paperwork with the government because I'm not trying to get grants. I'm not trying to get nobody's donations. I just want to go and do this. So you can go and do some good without being an officially recognized nonprofit organization. That means, though, you're less likely to get grant funding. And it also means that any nonprofit organization, as a nonprofit organization, nobody can just give you funds and receive a tax break. The break only goes to those that are officially recognized as 501c3 nonprofit organizations. In fact, there are some nonprofits like associations, like fraternities. They may be nonprofit, but they're not getting a tax break because somebody gives to them. There's only those charitable education type of organizations that receive those breaks, okay? Hope this helps you. Remember, I want to encourage you to be brave, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Remember, always take charge. Stay tuned for the next video. I'm going to be helping you with some other things to help you with your nonprofit.